Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Terp Family Fundamentals webinar series. My name is Danny Walker, and I am the Assistant Director of the Office of Family Engagement, and I use she, her pronouns. For those of you who are new, this webinar series is intended to help family members and supporters become informed consultants on campus resources so that you can better support your Terp. This special series welcomes our newest Terps and current Terps. And so I'm excited to have both students and their families joining in for this session. Today, we're joined by members of the Department of Resident Life. They're going to discuss everything you need to know about housing options for the next academic year, as well as important deadlines that you all should be aware of. A few housekeeping things. If you have questions throughout the webinar, please submit them via the Q&A feature. To access the Q&A feature, find your Zoom toolbar, and you will see the letters Q&A or a conversation box with a question mark. That's the Q&A feature. Please submit your questions that way, and we will be answering questions throughout the webinar. To help us answer questions that the majority of you have, if you see something that is similar to the question that you want to ask, we ask that you use the upvote option. So when you see the question, there will be a thumbs up icon that's considered a upvote. And so we'll be prioritizing questions with the most upvotes. So also be sure to look at the answered tab. So once we've responded to a question, the response will be found in the answered tab. We'll do our best to respond to all of the questions that come in before the end of the webinar. And then lastly, this webinar is being recorded and will be available on the Terp Family YouTube channel following the live stream today. So refer to your confirmation or reminder emails for a link to the Terp Family YouTube channel. And with that, I will hand off the presentation.
Thank you so much, Danny. And thank you all to the more than 400 folks that are joining us today from wherever you are. We really appreciate you taking this time to learn more about on-campus housing and our other housing options that we have for students at the University of Maryland. My name is Jasmine Pelez, and I am the manager for communications and outreach on behalf of the Department of Resident Life. I am also a proud Terp alum and a former RA and CA on campus, and really excited to share with you all what housing options we have available for our students next year, and for all of you just to get to know what options are out there, and perhaps you have questions about some things, and we really hope to take this next hour to inform everyone, answer some questions, and just build some more confidence in our residence hall options and all the options that students have available here at the University of Maryland. So we will kick off this webinar with introductions from our host, our presenters, and get to know a little bit about who's going to be sharing information with you all. So I will hand it over to Glo to introduce herself, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Jasmine. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Glo Beauport. I use she, hers pronouns, and I am the manager for assignments and housing processes. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. Happy Tuesday.
Linda, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, no, I was just updating my name. My name is Linda Dye. I am a public inquiry coordinator here at the Department of Resident Life. I am also an alum, and I've been in my position as a professional staff member since 2013.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tiffany Harris. My preferred pronouns are she, her, hers, and I serve as a coordinator in our university housing partnerships within the Department of Resident Life.
Wonderful. Now that you've learned a little bit about us, we'd love to learn a little bit about who is joining us. So Danny, we're going to ask that you initiate a poll, and we'll ask two simple questions. Are you a student? Are you a family member? And what year are you, or what year is your student? So we'll give you guys just a couple of moments to fill that out, and we get to learn a little bit about who's joining us today. Great. Alrighty, so it seems like a majority of folks joining us today are family members or supporters of students, and also many of us are first-year students or the parent or family member of a first-year student. So this is wonderful because a lot of the information that we have today about our residence halls is really relevant to our current first-year students, and then we also, of course, have information for sophomores, juniors, seniors, all that good stuff. So wonderful to see that we have a lot of family members joining us today. Awesome. So I'm going to go over what it is that we're going to be learning about today. We're going to be talking about the University of Maryland 4-year housing plan. What's the recommendation for your 4 years at the university? We'll also take a look at our residence halls. Get to know North Campus, South Campus, and also some of the housing rates. We'll also talk about the process for applying for housing in the residence halls, and this process called room selection. We'll also talk about our public-private apartment communities, South Campus Commons, and the Courtyards. You might have heard about these places, so we'll demystify those a little bit for you. And then we'll also take time to share some questions that you as Terps might consider thinking about as you are planning for next year in housing. And we'll also take a look at timelines, which will go over some important deadlines that you should keep in mind. And then at the end, we'll share some resources to get in touch with us further. And of course, go through some Q&A, answering some additional questions that haven't been answered yet. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to first go over our campus population. So as of August, the University of Maryland has more than 31,000 total undergraduate students, and about more than 12,000 of those undergraduate students live on campus and in our university affiliated properties. To be more specific, more than about 9,000 call our residence halls their home away from home, and another 3,000 students reside in our public-private partnership communities, the South Campus Commons and Courtyards. And we'll dive a little bit more into the differences between these residences and the best placement for students based on where they are in their 4-year housing plan. Really, living on campus offers students the opportunity to be exposed to a diverse array of student populations. They get to learn more about themselves. They get to learn about other students. We have many students who hail from different states, different countries, and it really is a great opportunity to, again, learn about themselves, learn about other people, and do that both within their classroom setting and, of course, within the residence halls and other places where they live. When we talk about university housing, we're really talking about our 39 residence halls that we have on campus. Those are overseen and operated by the Department of Resident Life. And we also have 2 public-private partnerships, the South Campus Commons and the Courtyards. When we think about these particular locations, Commons and Courtyards, these are located on university property, and our university housing partnerships units within the Department of Resident Life support students in obtaining leases at these properties. However, spaces in these apartment places, Commons and Courtyards, are managed by a private management company. So I think it's important to kind of just understand the differences there. Again, we have 39 residence halls on campus. Those are really overseen by the Department of Resident Life, and spaces in those residence halls are overseen by our Assignments and Public Inquiry Office. And then separately, we also have 2 public-private partnership apartments, and we'll dig a little bit more into each of these as we go through the presentation. But this is just an overview to hopefully kind of get a foundation of understanding when we talk about university housing at the University of Maryland. So we are going to learn a little bit more about our 4-year housing plan. So this is our 4-year housing plan. It really encourages 1st and 2nd year students to live in the residence halls, as we understand that's In the residence halls for first and second year students, we really are focused on helping our students transition to university campus living. And a really great supportive system is within our residence halls to be able to have 24/7 support for students, have them live on campus so they are easily accessible to dining halls, to their academic buildings, to STAMP for club engagement, all of that really good stuff, and really being in the heart of the campus experience. When we think about our third and fourth year students, we really advocate for more independent living housing options and support a transition to the South Campus Commons and the Courtyards or off-campus properties. I think what's really helpful to think about when we talk about our 4-year housing plan is how this relates to you. And for our students, think about where you're going to be in the upcoming academic year. So, for example, our current first year students will be second year or rising sophomores. So again, we really want to encourage that our second year students, our rising sophomores, have priority for returning to the residence halls if they complete their housing and dining agreement by the deadline. So that's a really, really great incentive to continue your Maryland residential experience, because we want you back in the residence halls, and you will have a spot if you complete your housing and dining agreement by the deadline. And for our third and fourth year students, again, we really encourage exploring more independent living housing options at South Campus Commons and the Courtyards. And I really want to say to our rising juniors that you have priority if you currently live on campus to have leasing options at these properties. So we really kind of continue this 4-year housing plan and are here to support you with housing options throughout your entire career at the University of Maryland. All right, I've spoken enough, but here are some great visuals when we think about our Stay On campaign and thinking about how especially our current first year students can stay on with us in the residence halls for their second year. And here is a video that I will share. All right, I am now going to turn it over to Linda, and we're going to learn a little bit more about all of our spaces here on campus and more about the Maryland residential experience.
Hi there again. My name is Linda. The Maryland residential experience provides complete access to all of the university, or all that the university has to offer, and positions the students to fully be immersed in the Terrapin community with support in place. Our housing program is obviously, for this reason, unique from any other College Park housing offered. So whether you've already found your group of people, so find your squad, or you intend to broaden your circle of people, living on campus is part of kind of connecting with other Terps. We also support your academic goals through a variety of different programs and services to help you make the grade. One of our resources, our best resources, greatest resources is that we have staff here to support you 24/7. We have RAs living on each floor, student and professional staff available on call, and residential facility staff available 24/7 for any maintenance issues. And I'm sure, as I'm sure you already know, that living in the residence halls means everything the university has to offer is right outside your front door. So an absolutely unbeatable location. Lastly, continuing in the residence halls means a chance to learn and grow outside of the classroom through clubs, student employment, and leadership opportunities, whatever you like to do, so you can keep being involved. Now let's take a glance at our residential community. Next slide, please. So living on South Campus, you will be close to the South Campus Dining Hall, McKeldin Mall, and Baltimore Avenue, which is filled with spots to grab food, coffee, and groceries. South Campus includes North Hill, South Hill, and the Leonardtown communities. In the North Hill community, we have a mix of traditional halls that and a hall that houses semi-suites. So for example, Prince Frederick Hall offers double rooms and semi-suite rooms for students in 3 living and learning programs. Carroll, Caroline, and Wacomico are examples of traditional halls that offer all single rooms. The South Hill community consists primarily of suites and apartments. Some residence halls in the South Hill community are Montgomery, Baltimore, and Washington. You may have heard of those. As an additional option in the South Hill community, we also have Cecil Hall. Cecil Hall is a traditional residence hall that houses only female students, if that is kind of the housing type you're looking for. The Leonardtown community features garden-style apartments and is located on campus nearby the metro and all that Baltimore Avenue has to offer, such as restaurants and grocery stores. Students who wish to cook their own meals will find the apartments attractive as they do not require a dining plan. The Leonardtown community also includes a few houses on Fraternity Row, which will be returning as part of our housing for another academic year. We'll keep you posted with any additional updates. Looking ahead for the next year, if you want the option of staying in your room over break, South Campus residence halls offer break housing. So that's across the board, all of them. You're eligible to remain if you need to stay for breaks. Next slide, please. Thank you. Students who live on North Campus live in close proximity to the Epley Recreation Center, the football and basketball stadiums, and the Clary Smith Performing Arts Center. Additionally, there are 2 dining halls. That would be 251 North and Yahimitsi. North Campus is home to high-rise traditional halls and Oakland Hall, which features semi-suites. Traditional halls can be found throughout all North Campus communities with room types that are doubles, triples, and quads. Oakland Hall has a limited number of double rooms, but I would note that Oakland Hall has a total of 160 semi-suites. And when considering the number of returning students we typically receive, it will be a competitive residence hall during room selection. With this in mind, we encourage rising sophomores to have a backup plan if Oakland is your first choice. Break housing options on North Campus include La Plata, Pyeongchang, and Johnson Whittle. Next slide, please. So now that we've got a sense on what the North and South Campus communities are, let's dive a little bit deeper into housing options that rising second-year students can most likely expect to have the best chance in securing during room selection. Apartments, suites, and semi-suites. Apartments are located in the Leonardtown community as well as in the South Hill community. Apartments feature 3 to 5 bedrooms and 1 to 2 baths with space for 6 residents. Living in apartments, you can take advantage of the kitchen and dining spaces. This gives you the flexibility to modify your dining plan however you need to. So any apartment whether in Leonardtown or South Hill, you do have the option of having either no dining plan or one of the commuter dining plans that dining services offers. Suites are available throughout South Hill, and include options with 3 to 5 bedrooms and 1 to 2 baths with space for up to 6 residents. In suites, you can connect with your roommates and friends in your furnished living room. The big difference between suites and apartments is that suites do not have a kitchen, so you do need to carry a full dining plan. Finally, semi-suites feature 2 bedrooms, joined together by a shared bathroom and accommodate up to 4 students. So that's 2 double rooms connected by a bath. These spaces are available in Oakland Hall and for living and learning program students in the programs assigned to that hall, Prince Frederick Hall. But you can definitely see these for yourself through our virtual tours. Next slide. So on our website, we encourage students to check out our 360 virtual tour or virtual room tours. They include several layouts, including double rooms, 2 apartments and suites, and various residence halls across campus. Next slide. So this is obviously one of the questions that we get a lot, housing and housing rates, so rates and fees. Here's a look at the housing rates. These are for the current academic year, which you can also find on our website. We have differential housing rates that are based on residence halls, room amenities offered, and the number of room occupants. Next year's housing rates will be available in mid to late spring. Housing fees are reviewed annually by the UMD Residence Hall Association, that's the RHA. If your student has any interest, they can run for and participate in the RHA. The University System of Maryland Board of Regents reviews and approves the proposed fees during their spring meetings. And with that, I will pass this off to Glo, and I think she's going to tell you more about the room selection process.
Thank you very much, Linda. Hello again, everyone. Now that we've learned a lot more about our resident hall housing options, we'll dive into room selection in the residence halls. Room selection is the process for students to choose their own available space in the residence halls. So very different. I've already seen this come up in the Q&A a couple of times. Our rising sophomores, your space was given to you and assigned to you this past year. You get the opportunity to choose your own space during room selection in March. So that's very exciting. One important thing to note is that stay on for another year, and to be able to select your own room, you must log into the housing portal. We launched the agreement yesterday. So thank you to the probably, last I checked, 900 of you or more who have already done this. We really appreciate it. You must log into the housing portal and complete the residence hall housing and dining agreement by February 23rd, 2026 at 4 p.m. I'm going to say it again. By February 23rd, 2026 at 4 p.m. The housing and dining agreement is available on the portal, so please complete it today. So you've completed the first step in submitting your residence hall and dining agreement by February 23rd. What's next? That's room selection. The next step will come in spring 2026 in March, when students will receive notification first at the end of February of their eligibility to participate in room selection, and can then begin forming roommate groups. We do not select roommates for you as well. You form your roommate groups and strategize on what building, community, and or type of room that you and your group would like to choose, okay? Hold tight though. That's as much as we're probably going to provide right now. We will provide so many more details about this process next semester. What's good to know now: eligible students, you'll choose your space either with roommates or solo. Students who are a part of living learning programs, You will be informed well in advance, if you have not already, about your housing options for next year. For example, some programs may not allow participants to return to their current building, while others have second-year housing requirements. Participants will receive clear and detailed information about this again early spring. So the residence hall, next slide, please. Housing and dining application, as I mentioned, is already available. Just head to the housing portal to review and submit yours before the February 23rd deadline. And here are some questions to begin discussing ahead of time. Do I want to move with friends? Which housing style interests me most? Do I want to live like near classes or the dining halls? Do I want to live on South Campus, North Campus? Do I want to be in an apartment, suite, traditional hall again? All of those lovely options that Linda discussed earlier. Another reminder that all undergraduate students can submit an application, but for our rising juniors and seniors, your application will initially be placed on our housing waitlist. As was said in the beginning, we have housing options for you. Soon you'll hear from my lovely colleague, Tiffany, who has so much to share about your options. And now, I foreshadowed it, I'll pass it over to Tiffany to discuss our university affiliated housing options, South Campus Commons, and the Courtyards. And if you remember, these locations are our recommended spaces for third year and fourth year students.
Thank you, Glo. As Jasmine mentioned earlier, I just want to highlight again that at the University of Maryland, we have 2 housing sites that are categorized as public-private partnerships, or also you may hear the term or phrase university affiliate housing. What that means is these sites are being built on university land and are only available to University of Maryland undergraduate students. However, the leasing process, the legal and financial responsibilities of living on these sites are managed by the individual housing staff within those sites, and they are partnered with Capstone on Campus Management. As noted on the slide, there are 2 communities, South Campus Commons and the Courtyards, and on each site, there are 7 apartment buildings available. The lease terms for the sites run through end of August to the end of July, which allows students the ability to remain on campus in their apartments during the semester breaks as well as over the summer. Next slide, please. So I want to give an overview of each site because they are different. First, I want to say that South Campus Commons and the Courtyards are typically housing options for our junior and senior students. The reason being is these communities are structured in a way that align with the student stage in their college experience because they are apartment style communities. The Courtyards is located near the Xfinity Center along University Boulevard. It is a garden style community, so the apartments have exterior entrances. There are about 700 students that live in the community, and the unit types are 2-bedroom standards or 2-bedroom deluxes, or for a larger group, a 4-bedroom unit. There are no studio, 1-bedroom, or 3-bedroom units available at this site. The amenities do include free parking. There is a clubhouse lounge with study areas, a fitness center, a recreation room, and an outdoor pool with a beach volleyball court available for residents. South Campus Commons is located along Knox Road and Prenkert Drive near the South Campus Dining Hall and the College Park Shopping Center. This is a traditional apartment style complex that have secure building entrances to where getting to your apartment, you may have to swipe into a building and then swipe into an elevator or hallway before you enter into your apartment. There are over 2,000 students that live in this site, and mostly the site is made of 4-bedroom units. Though they're available, they are limited studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units. There is staff available in both sites, but in South Campus Commons, staff is available 24/7 because there are service desk available in selected buildings. Both sites do include private bedrooms. So if you are living in a 4x4 bedroom, or I'm sorry, 4x4 apartment, what it means is that each individual will have their own private bedroom and maybe their own private bathroom. There are in each apartment in-unit kitchens and laundry appliances. So it's not required that you have a dining plan. It's at your discretion to decide. And then most of the apartments in both sites have carpeting, and there are some that may have vinyl plank wooding in the selected communal areas, so your living room or kitchen areas. Next slide, please. Thank you. So one of the questions that our office receives a lot of the times is, how is priority determined in the Commons and Courtyards apartment selection process? So I would like to break it down into really 4 components that are listed on this slide. First being eligibility. You must be a full-time undergraduate student at the university that is in good standing academically, administratively, and conduct-wise in order to be eligible to live in either site. You must meet the leasing application. Currently the leasing application is open for completion, and you must complete it by January 5th at 11:59 p.m. in order to be able to participate in apartment selection. The third component is what's your current housing status. Students that live in the residence halls have a higher priority compared to students that live off campus. We do consider those that live in fraternity and sorority housing off campus. Last component is number of semesters. How many semesters of college will you have completed at the end of this academic year since graduating high school? We do not consider a student's credit level. So if you coming into college as a first year student, but your credits are of a sophomore or above standing, we do not consider the credits. We consider the number of semesters that you've had in college since you have graduated high school. So once you have determined your individual priority based on the chart that's here on the slide, then you want to start thinking about if you're going to be living with other people and you want to form a group. The way you want to approach is that priority is of a line, and there is no cutting of that line. So if you are forming a group with individuals that have a different priority number than yourself, your group's priority will be shifting. And the group's priority will be of the lowest priority member of that group, and that individual would be the individual that would be selecting the apartment as well as being the group leader for that group. For instance, say if you are a group of 4 students, 3 of you are in the first priority group, but the 4th individual is of the 5th priority group, so they are an off-campus student. Your group's priority will decrease to being the 5th priority group because the 4th individual is an off-campus student. If you want more information about the apartment selection process or see our upcoming information session or tours that are available at the individual sites, please go to the link that is at the bottom of this slide, and that information will be available for you to review at your leisure. Next slide, please. So the next 2 slides are going to be talking about your anticipated housing costs compared to Commons and Courtyards when thinking about the popular off-campus apartment complexes in the city of College Park. I do want to highlight that this slide right here is based on information that our office has received as of October. So the prices for the off-campus properties, or sorry, off-campus complexes may vary depending on the time of year that you are looking to lease with them, but there is a benefit. For Commons and Courtyards, the rates will not be changing for the 2026-2027 year, and we'll be announcing the finalized installment rates at the end of November, early December. The information we have on the slide for related to commons and courtyards just anticipated, but we'll be finalizing them later on this month. So when you're looking at this slide, we really just wanted to highlight two of our most common apartment types that we see within our sites as well as off-campus properties. And that is a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment or a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. As you can see on the slide, commons and courtyards are much more affordable compared to the off-campus apartment complexes. If you go to the next slide, please. So you're probably asking, well, how far does my dollar go when I'm comparing commons and courtyards to the off-campus properties? Here is a breakdown of the utilities that what includes your housing costs. And these utilities breakdowns tend to stay the same every leasing term. So as you can see, when living at commons and courtyards, you are gaining much more affordability when it comes to your housing costs because all of your amenities and utilities are included in your housing costs. So for example, if you are an individual that is looking to lease at the View, you will be having to pay for your parking, cable streaming, and then your phone services separately. Or say if you're living at the Hub, you will just be paying for the room as well as the internet in your housing costs, but you will be having a separate bill for all the other amenities and utilities in that property. Now, typically those costs will be varying depending on how the property divides them up. Some of the properties may be dividing it up where you are they take a total of the entire building and divide it up by how many people are in that building. It can also be divided up by how many people are on that particular floor, or even how many people are in your individual apartment. I would say it's important to keep in mind that nationwide, utility costs for water, electricity, trash, or slash sewage has been increasing, and that whenever you are looking at off-campus apartment complexes, they may be promoting a particular discount if you sign with them on that particular day or by a particular day. Those promotions may end at a certain time. So your housing costs may fluctuate after that promotion has expired. So it's important that you consider into these factors in thinking for commons and courtyards. What you pay when you sign your lease in February or whenever you go through our apartment selection process would remain the same throughout your entire lease term. And now I will throw the floor back over to Glo.
Thanks, Tiffany. So now let's take a step back and take a look at timelines together for both applications or the agreement for the residence halls and those for the South Campus Commons and the courtyards. So this yesterday, the residence hall and dining agreement became available and live for returning students. February 23rd, it's that deadline again, that date, 2026 at 4 p.m. is the deadline. Very important to meet that deadline. I've already seen this question. There is no cost that is related to this. So if you have already completed the housing and dining agreement in the past, please, it's just a couple of clicks and updating some information should you wish, and complete that quick agreement by the 23rd at 4 p.m. March 2nd to March 9th, 2026 will be room selection, the process we discussed earlier, where the student would go in and select the desired living space. Sometime between February 23rd, March 2nd, eligibility will be determined and students will be informed. You do not need to know your roommates or your housing preferences, such as like building, community, style, or any of that when you apply and complete that agreement. And if you change your mind, you can cancel your agreement before room selection with no penalty. So take a second right after this webinar, please, if you haven't already, if you're a student in this room, please go ahead, log into the housing portal and complete your agreement. Tiffany, would you like to share more about your timeline?
Yes. So as I mentioned earlier, the 2026-2027 Commons and Courtyards leasing application is now open and available in your housing portal for you to submit. Submitting an application is a requirement in order to participate in this year's apartment selection process. The application is non-binding and there is no application fee. It's just the first step that you have to do in order to move forward in our apartment selection process. And keep in mind that the leasing application deadline is January 5th at 11:59 p.m. I encourage students before you leave campus to go home for winter break, just complete the leasing application so it is not on your mind as you are with your family and friends over winter break. We do have a hybrid information session scheduled on Thursday, November 13th at 5 p.m. What this means is we will be having an option. If you want to join us virtually, you can please just register through the link that I placed in the chat, or you can join us in Edward St. John room 0224, where we'll be going more in depthly with about the apartment selection process. And I will have colleagues from each site present to answer any questions you may have virtually or in person. Once the application closes or once the priority deadline has passed in January, in mid to late January, our office will communicate to students that met our deadline the next steps in the apartment selection process so they can prepare appropriately. Then the actual apartment selection dates are February 18th and February 19th. And what that will mean is each person that applies will receive an appointment time to log into their housing portal and select an apartment based on their group size or based on their personal preference if they are a group of one. Once you have selected an apartment, it is a requirement that you, as well as your guarantor, sign the lease agreement by February 23rd at 12 p.m. just to secure your lease in either of the sites. Failure to do so would mean that you are no longer interested in living in Commons and Courtyards and that apartment or that bedroom is available for others to select from. And I believe that is all that I have to remind individuals on. I encourage you to please come to our info session on November 13th just to learn more about this process.
Thanks so much, Tiffany. Now, we have learned a ton about our on-campus residence halls and, of course, our public-private partnership apartments at Commons and Courtyards. And so what we really encourage is that our Terps and their families and their supporters really start asking yourself some questions and have discussions when it comes to your housing options for next year. Here are just a couple that you can start to really initiate that conversation, right? What are you or what are your students' housing priorities? What kind of housing do you want? When you think about exploring a semi-suite or an apartment space that has a kitchen, such as those in the Leonardtown community, is that something you're interested in? Also think about, do you want roommates or do you want housemates? How do you prefer to best live? I will share that a majority of our sophomore students, right? So current students who will be returning for their second year will have a roommate. So really think about if there's someone that you already have in mind. I will say that closer to the room selection process, we will be having events specifically tailored to students to be able to form relationships with other students, and potentially find a roommate for next year. Also think about how you'll get your meal. If you are looking to definitely stick to the dining plan on campus, you know, it might be something where you stay in a traditional hall or a suite or a semi-suite. If you are definitely somewhat of a foodie and you enjoy the idea of making your own meals, an apartment would be a really, really great fit for you. Again, our garden style apartments in the Leonardtown community would be a great choice. How you get to campus for classes and activities. It's starting to get a little bit chillier, as I'm sure a lot of people are feeling. So start to think about how far of a walk you would consider going to get to and from class. We also do have a ton of resources on campus, like our micromobility devices, our shuttles, all that good stuff are things to kind of keep in mind as well. What's going to be your plan during breaks? Are you interested in staying in your room over break, then staying in a residence hall across our South Campus area is a great option for you because those are residence halls that will stay open during breaks, such as Thanksgiving break and winter break. And also, of course, a really big one, what's your housing budget? Really start to think about the housing rates. What are you and your family looking for in terms of a budget? And really tailoring your choices based on that as well, if that's a really, really high priority for you. So now we're going to move on and talk about resources because I'm sure that you all might still have lingering questions either right now or in the future when you think about today's webinar. When you have questions specifically about living in the residence halls and questions about filling out the residence hall dining, housing and dining agreement, your number one resource will be the resource shown here in yellow. That will go to our housing and public inquiry office. We have our email, you have our phone number, our website, all that good stuff. That will be your number one source when you think about what are those residence halls again? Where is South Campus? Where is North Campus? Where are those resources where I can find the virtual tours? All of that good stuff will be on our website. And of course, you're more than welcome to email us or call us Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And again, that's specific to our 39 residence halls on campus. And then, of course, if you are a rising junior, if you are a rising senior, and you're really interested in Commons and Courtyards, we have their information up here as well as the resource for our university housing partnerships. They can also get you information about those great information sessions that Tiffany mentioned that are coming up. Those are also posted on that website, reslife.umd.edu. So these are, again, are all really, really great resources for folks to keep in mind should you have additional questions after today. I'll leave this up just a little bit more if you want to snap a quick photo of these resources. And then we'll move in with yet another reminder about submitting your residence hall housing and dining agreement by February 23rd at 4 p.m. Again, we really encourage our rising sophomores, our second year students to return to the residence halls and continue your Maryland residential experience. To be able to choose your own room, you've got to sign your agreement by February 23rd, 2026. Again, we really encourage you to apply now. And if you change your mind down the line, you will be able to cancel your agreement before room selection with no fee. I'll also share that we'll be sending a lot more reminders and information about this leading up to February. So this will not be the last time that our students hear from us about this. And with that, we will really kind of move in to questions that are remaining in the Q&A. Danny, I'll ask for your help and maybe sifting through some of our most frequently asked questions so we can again reiterate what the answer to that is.
Yes. Thank you all so much for that. Lots of information. And even after all these years of doing this, I feel like I learn something new every time. Um, I did see in the Q&A there were a lot of questions about fraternity and sorority housing. And so in the chat, I did list contact information for fraternity and sorority life. They will be best able to answer questions regarding fraternity and sorority housing, just because the different chapters are different and what they require. So the fraternity and sorority life team will be your best resource when it comes to any questions regarding housing in the fraternity or sorority cases. A question that was pretty popular throughout is priority given to those who sign the housing agreement first?
Great question. No, there is no priority given. All room selection times will be random. So the only thing we ask to be eligible to participate in room selection, that there is a completed agreement. But once we have all completed agreements, the selection times will be selected at random.
Great, thank you. And just to confirm, for students interested in South Campus Commons or the Courtyards, are they completing the housing and dining agreement, or is there a separate agreement specifically for Commons and Courtyards?
There is a separate agreement that they will have to complete. The reason being that when you are completing your leasing application, you are also providing your guarantor's information, which is a requirement in the leasing process. So you will have to complete separate forms.
Great, thank you.
Just to say, if you are really looking to explore as many options as possible, there's no harm in applying to Commons and Courtyards, especially if you're a rising junior and senior, and also applying to the residence housing and dining agreement. You're also welcome to apply for both if you want to widen your range of options. But again, I will share, as we have before, that priority for leasing options is really for our rising juniors and seniors.
Thank you. And Jasmine, just FYI, I put a couple questions in the chat for you. There was a few questions about housing accommodations. Can you share what the process is for securing housing accommodations? And if they have, for our current students, if they have accommodations now, are they rolling over to the next year, or do they need to go through that process again?
Sorry, I'm trying to answer. That was about 3 questions. I'm trying to figure out which one I want to answer first. Okay, so they do not have to apply if they already have an approved housing accommodation through the Office of Accessibility and Disability Services. With our office, they would not have to apply for their accommodation again. So that is, it's as long as they remain a student with us, a resident with us, their accommodations remain. As far as the process, that's not something we can share at this time, but we will look to meet their accommodation again for the next academic year. The information about how they would apply, how they would select housing will come closer to the top of spring semester. Did I answer? I feel like there was a third piece there.
If they want to learn more about what those housing accommodations are, or what the process is for even looking into if they can get housing accommodations,
Yeah.
who should they contact for that?
Sure. That would be, I believe it's ADS front desk at umd.edu, but I'm going to put this information in the chat because that's a great question, or one of my colleagues can help me with that. But it would be with the Accessibility and Disability Services Office. They are located in the Shoemaker Building, and I believe their main contact via email is adsfrontdesk@umd.edu. And I can look for a phone number, but they would be the first step We collaborate very well and very often with them, but they determine the accommodation that your student needs based off of the information that you share with them from professionals. And then they later on share with us, thank you, Jasmine. And then they later on share with us whether or not your student was approved or denied. And they share which accommodation that we would have to meet. And nothing else besides that. No diagnoses or anything like that. That is all confidential in between you and ADS. So that's the process. First step is them. They then reach out to us. We collaborate with them in order to get your student the space that they need.
Danielle, I
Thank
have clarification. Was the question asking just for the residence halls or just between residence halls and commons and courtyards?
The question was mainly for the residence halls, but
Okay.
if there's a separate process for South Campus Commons and Courtyards, that would be helpful information to provide as well.
Yes, so there is a separate process. It kind of goes back to the public partnerships to where when it comes to housing accommodations, individuals will have to work with the Commons Courtyards Housing Office directly for that. And they do have a separate form that they ask that students complete when they're requesting housing accommodations. And this year, the deadline to submit those requests is January 12th. I will put here in the chat just our link to our website that has all the housing accommodations as well as other housing factors a person wants to consider when thinking about leasing in commons and courtyards. I also do want to say that what is shared from the accessibility office to the Department of Resident Life is not communicated over to the Commons Courtyards Housing Office, which is the reason why we have two separate processes.
Thanks, Tiffany. And just a reminder as well, there were a lot of questions about room selection and how students will choose what room and priority and things like that. There will be another webinar in the spring in advance of the room selection process. So there will be a lot more information forthcoming once we get closer to that period. There were many questions about study abroad. Can someone speak to the process if a student is currently living in a residence hall and decides to study abroad? And then also, can someone speak to this from the Commons and Courtyards perspective as well?
Sure.
Sure.
Oh, who wants to go first?
Go right ahead, Tiffany.
So when it comes to commons and courtyards and the apartment selection process, if you currently live on campus and you're going to be studying abroad in the spring 2026 semester, because you lived on campus this current semester, you are able to retain your residence hall status. We do ask that you make sure you complete your leasing application before you leave for winter break. And secondly, we ask or we encourage you to contact the Education Abroad office to inquire about when you're studying abroad, if you still have access to your housing portal or the university's housing database, because we learned last year that there are some study abroad programs where when you go abroad, you don't have access to the university's database as you would if you were at the university. So we encourage you to connect with the Education Abroad office and ask that question. And if you foresee not having access to the university's databases, contacting our office when you complete your leasing application so we can make record of that and we can follow up with you directly on how you can participate in this year's process while you are studying abroad.
As for the residence halls, we do have a cancellation process where they can petition to release with the valid term of studying abroad. So should we get proof or identification of some sort that says the student is participating within a study abroad program, we are able to release them for so if they're coming in the fall, releasing for the spring to study abroad, or if they want to study abroad in the fall, they would apply for the spring only housing and dining agreement, which usually becomes available sometime in October of that year. So similarly to what Tiffany was sharing, ensuring that a student has access to our application or our agreement while they are abroad to complete it, to hope for housing with us in that spring semester should they be abroad in the fall. But yes, there is definitely a way for students to still live on campus, although participating in a study abroad program, depending on the semester. They just need to still meet the application requirements or the agreement requirements and select a space. If it's going to be for the spring, they should select still in room selection. And again, if it's going to be in the fall, they should be waiting for the spring only agreement that usually becomes available sometime in October.
Great, thank you so much. And I'm not sure if someone on the call would be able to respond to this, but I did see a question about student employment opportunities with Resident Life. And so can someone speak to what those opportunities are and a timeline for when applying would happen?
Jasmine, do you want me to take that one?
Sure, yeah, I was like finding the unmute button, but if you go ahead and take it and then I can find the website to share with everyone about this specifically.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Meredith. I'm an associate director with Resident Life. We have many student employment opportunities. A lot of our student employment opportunities are at our service desks, our 24-hour service desk, and our hourly jobs for the community assistants. A lot of our other options are resident assistants who live on the floors and help lead those students in that area. Our resident assistant process for next year has already completed. We're in the process of interviewing those students for next year. For our community assistant process, Jasmine is going to put the link on the chat, but so everyone can see that. I don't believe that process has started for jobs that will start in the spring, but we're going to encourage you and your students to take a look at that link. That will list all of our available options. We do have a number of other options in smaller parts of our department, so those just come up at different points throughout the year, and there's no particular time. So I really encourage folks to keep an eye on this. Again, in between semesters is going to be the time that we do the most hiring. So looking now is a great time to make sure that you're knowing when those applications are coming available and you can get into that process. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And again, Jasmine put the link for the student employment in the chat, so be sure to check that out. Those are the main questions that I pulled from the Q&A. For those who were responding to all of the questions, is there anything you would like to address to the larger group while we still have time?
I'll reiterate again that we really encourage the current first year students to stay on with us in the residence halls for this next upcoming academic year. Apply now. The application is available on your housing portal, and that deadline to apply is again February 23rd, 2026. It's an easy enough thing to just complete and check off your list. And again, if further down the road you change your mind about where you want to live, you can cancel your agreement before room selection with no penalty. And I'll also share that we will really be sharing a lot more details, a lot more information to our students about the room selection process leading up to that when it begins in March. So just as an overview and a little sneak peek, we're going to be having a workshop specifically about room selection, how to complete it, things to keep in mind. We'll also be sending an email about group formation, meaning the process in which students can pair up with other folks to form a roommate group and enter that all together for the room selection process. And we're also going to have mixers, room selection mixers, where students can meet other students that they potentially want to roommate with for the upcoming academic year. We're also going to be having opportunities for folks to find us in the dining halls, where we're going to be available to answer any and all questions about residence hall living. So I really encourage all of our students to get as much information as you can, either by contacting our office or checking out our website. And also know that we're going to be sending you many more details in the weeks, months to come about room selection, so that you feel confident going in starting March 2nd, how to complete that process. So a lot more to come, but know that more will definitely be on the way.
Great, thank you. Well, we are at time, so I do want to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. Contact information. Is there a last slide that has your contact information in? Yes, here. So here's contact information for the Department of Resident Life. So please reach out if you do have any additional questions. As I bring this webinar to a close, I do want to remind you all that this webinar has been recorded. And so I will be uploading the recording to the Terp family YouTube channel later this afternoon. And so you will also receive an email with a link to the recording as well as a survey. So please let us know how we did, how we can improve in the future. And then also if there's other topics you would like to have a webinar on, please let me know about that as well. We welcome your thoughts and thank you again for joining us. Have a great day.